cases like this, they want the target to know that he or she is being followed and fucked with in horrible ways. They just don't want that person to know who's doing it or why. So this person ends up having all of these people following them, recording them, coming into their home and opening a window when they're not there to show them that someone was there, just to terrorize them. But the target isn't told why. Okay. Meanwhile, whoever's running this wants the general population to think the target is crazy when he or she speaks up. Okay, they don't want the general population to understand what's happening to the target. So it's overt and covert abuse. It's overt in the sense that they want the target to know something horrible is happening, but not exactly what. And it's covert in the sense that they don't want the general population to know what's happening to the target. Two, people then become involved in these campaigns against someone, right? It could even be a community watch group that thinks they're doing something good, but they're sent to track the target so that the psychopaths can keep track of the target everywhere that person goes, right? They're sent to fuck with the target or make certain comments or gestures. Some of them don't even realize what they're doing, okay? But that's the point, okay? Not speaking about it allows them to continue in that ignorance. If it's spoken about, they might choose not to do that. So if you have a target who's screaming out in public, "Get away from me, this is gang stalking," or whatever they're calling it, they're letting the population know what's happening. The people then have a choice. They can choose to research this, or they can choose to continue in their lies and continue attacking. At that point, they're no longer innocent. That's a willful decision to block out reality and continue doing what they're doing, to inflict harm on people. Okay, at that point, once they're made aware of what's happening, then they have to make a decision. If they keep doing it, that's a choice. And now they are guilty. When it comes to silencing of the targets, it's complicated because what they want to do is push the targets to break down. So even when the target does go silent, the attacks don't stop. They send people to attack more and more because they want the target to break down in public. To get him or herself arrested, institutionalized, killed, and at the very least discredited. To have people claim that this person is crazy, right? But they also need the silence of the people in order to get away with any of this, right? On one hand, they're giving the message, shut up and be quiet. Even to the target, shut up and be quiet. On the other hand, they attack them even worse. And they get worse and worse and worse until the target can't help but scream. It's sick, it's twisted, it's perverse, it's depraved. But when it comes to everyone else, they just want them to shut up and not talk about it. Well, that allows it to continue. And two, there's something very sick, isn't there, about attacking someone, going along with warfare like this against someone, telling them to shut up and not tell anyone about it, right? So that nobody knows what you're doing to them. You can't do that and say that you're good. If you think you're a good person when you're doing that to someone, you're deluded. Okay, you're MAGA level stupid at that point, and you're no better than they are. Hunting people, stalking people, terrorizing people, driving people to the kind of breakdowns that we're seeing happen now. The screaming in the streets, and then just standing around them and heckling them or not giving a shit, acting like you've done something good. When you watch someone break down to that extent and you think that you've accomplished something, is that primitive animal instinct that you've conquered somewhere? Now, what is it? Because you're not trying to help people, that's for sure. When you get to that point, when you're clearly hurting people, you're not doing a good thing. And if you don't realize that, you're monstrously stupid. This is not for the benefit of anyone. Don't lie to yourself. Okay, if you think you're in a community watch group, you're hurting people. You're working for the bad guys. You're helping the actual traffickers and worse, maintain full control over their target. And that includes knowledge of wherever the target is at any given point, because you help them track the target. You're risking people's lives. And a lot of people believe that they're doing something good. But if we're screaming, if the targets are yelling, if the targets are shouting, if we're talking, you can't ignore it anymore. You're going to have to make a choice. You're doing something good or you're not. But, which is it? You're going to have to be honest with yourself at some point. And then you make a decision. You either stop dropping my phone. I'm going to edit that out. In which case, if you keep doing it, you have to acknowledge you no longer have good intent. And maybe you never did. Maybe you never did. And if you're silent with people, and if you're cutting people off, and if you're not listening to the target, or anyone, even other people who try to have a conversation with you, anyone who tells you something you don't want to hear, then you're not going to hear the truth. And so you're going to keep engaging in these crimes. Again, really, this is a crime against humanity. Right? Believing that you're doing something good or that it's not as bad as it is, and even destroying, you're going to be used against your own allies. Right? They don't want you to hear the truth, so they'll tell you to shut off, put your headphones in, not listen, walk away, don't listen to anything that person says, and on and on. Meanwhile, the target's breaking down, and the target's going to get arrested. The target's going to get institutionalized, right? On false accusations. Even false accusations of mental illness can destroy someone's life nowadays under this regime. And you know they're not mentally ill because you're engaging in the very thing that they say that you're doing. You just found an excuse to say, well, oh, it's not really that, it's different. It's not different. It's not different. You're just too stupid to understand what you're doing. And if you shut off and not listen to them, that's your choice. You're choosing willful ignorance, and that can't be used as an excuse anymore. Because choosing not to listen to someone just so that later you can say, well, I didn't know, that's a manipulative ploy to avoid any and all consequences for your actions. That can't be used anymore. And I swear to whatever exists, the universe almighty, if I can change the law to make sure none of you can use that excuse anymore, I goddamn will. Because you're choosing to shut off and not listen. So the target tries desperately to get through to you. The target goes crazy. The target ends up screaming and looking crazy and getting dragged off and imprisoned or institutionalized, and you still don't understand. Because you've shut off and you've not listened to a goddamn thing that person said. So you're still committing a crime. Under the guise of righteousness. And later you're going to plead ignorance, aren't you? Well, I didn't know this was happening. You had every option of knowing this was happening. You had people there warning you. You chose to shut them off. Okay. Silence is deadly. Silence is compliance. I don't like to use the catchphrases, but that's so true. When it comes to the targets, on one hand, they want the targets to break down and go completely ballistic in public so that the target destroys his or her own life. Okay? On the other hand, they don't want any of the perpetrators to understand what's actually happening, so they'll tell you to shut off and not listen. And so you can have someone screaming about being followed by a group of guys, like that woman online who was, in that case, there was the video right there. They were literally following behind her laughing. And you can still call her a Karen. You can still laugh at her and mock her and jeer at her and heckle her because there was a provocateur there who started heckling her, even though she was clearly the innocent one there. So you're seeing what they're telling you to see, not what's actually there. And you're going along with heckling against someone who is actually innocent. I mean, how stupid can anyone be? If you can't understand context, if you can't pay attention to what's actually happening, okay, and include that in your responses, because you're going to be told to do a whole lot of things that will require you to ignore what's actually happening, well, then you're just going to be a useful idiot to destroy your own allies, your own side. And that's unforgivable.